Definition of letters, for sure.
Exactly.
I like it.
So get ready to, like, think.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so this author starts out
Okay.
with this story about these three daughters
Okay.
and their education.
Mm.
And it's so interesting
Okay.
because, like, their dad, observes them growing up,
Huh?
and they're, like, devouring Shakespeare and Walter Scott.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Instead of arithmetic and geography,
Right.
we're going to go for Latin and harmony. Like, can you imagine? It's quite a...
It makes you think, like...
Yeah, it's definitely a different path than you'd
just
expect.
What sparks that kind of a
Right.
love of learning? Yeah, what is it about those early
Yeah.
experiences that sort of sets them
Exactly.
on a certain trajectory?
Mm-hmm. And that's what's so cool, because that's exactly what happened.
Oh, wow.
The author talks about how they, like, breezed through Latin
Wow.
way faster than
Yeah.
anyone thought possible.
Mm.
And then they went on to do all this other stuff, like painting
Yeah.
and horsemanship. And it really shows you that, like, letters doesn't box you in.
Yeah.
It, like, empowers you to do whatever you want.
It's like a foundation that then
Yeah.
you can build anything on top of.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
that, like,
Instead of
just those very specific skills.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
And then it gets really interesting because the author goes on to say that, like, letters, and especially the classics,
Okay.
are actually the key to real knowledge.
Interesting.
It even goes so far as to say that this deep understanding of history and philosophy and just, like, human nature is what helps you win battles.
Yeah. And not just, like, on an actual battlefield, but, like,
Right, in life.
in life.
Yeah, the strategic skills.
Exactly. Like, when you think about all the great leaders
Yeah.
throughout history, so many of them were, like, inspired by
Absolutely.
these texts.
Yeah, they provide a framework for understanding.
Totally.
Right.
And making decisions.
Yeah.
It's like they've seen it all.
Absolutely. They have stood the test of time for a reason.
And so, like, they have something to teach us.
Right.
But here's the thing. And the author's, like, upfront about this.
Okay.
They say that, like, nowadays, the average student,
Yeah.
even though they're capable,
Mm.
they don't know that much about history or literature.
It's true.
Even their own history and literature.
Yeah.
It's like they finish school, they close their books,
Right.
and that's it.
And they're done learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they just needed to pass the test and
But-
then they're finished.
Exactly.
It's sad in a way.
It is kind of sad.
Because it's like you're missing out on so much.
Yeah. And I think the author's getting at this point about our education system.
Totally.
Like, we're so focused on just memorizing and regurgitating for the exam.
And then forgetting it.
Exactly.
Right.
And we've lost that love of just learning for the sake of learning.
It's the joy of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a chore now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a transaction.
Exactly.
I'll give you this. You give me that.
Yep.
I got a grade. I'm good.
Exactly. And then I'm done.
Exactly.
And so the author is, like, posing this question
Okay.
of how do we fix that?
Right.
Like, how do we make it so that we're keeping that, like, rigor of a classical education, but also, like, making it so people actually want to learn?
Right. Making it engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the key.
And they have a solution.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I know. It's really interesting. So they're talking about going back to the classics.
Yeah.
Like, really grounding education in Latin and Greek and philosophy.
Okay.
But, and this is a big guck,
Okay.
not saying that we should only read the classics.
Okay.
It's more about, like, using them as a foundation and then expanding from there.
Oh, I see. I see. So it's like they're saying you can have your classics and then go out from there.
It's about finding that balance. Because we don't want to lose that, like, curiosity and...
You still want to be well-rounded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then get this.
Okay.
They propose this, like, 100 books challenge.
100 books challenge.
Well, like, by the time you're done with school,
Yeah.
you should have read 100 books.
Okay.
On top of all the classics.
So beyond just the normal curriculum?
Like, just for fun.
Wow.
Just to, like, broaden your horizons.
That's ambitious.
It is ambitious.
I like it.
But, like, can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, think about all the different
No.
perspectives and experiences that you would get.
And it's not just about, like, old books.
Right.
The author makes this point that, like, letters, what they represent is actually super important for dealing with, like, all the craziness in the world today.
Yeah, because, like, when you think about it, we're bombarded with so much information these days that it's hard to know what's what.
Right.
And so to be able to cut through all that noise
Exactly.
and figure out what's important
Right.
What's true.
And whose perspective.
Exactly.
And, like, why are they...
And how do we get here?
Yeah.
Like, what's the historical context?
Exactly.
All of that is so important.
And that's what letters can teach us.
Right. And the author makes a really interesting point about how, like, a lot of students could actually handle much more difficult material.
Really?
Yeah, like Latin and Greek.
Wow.
Way earlier than we think they can. It's like we're underestimating them by sticking to these, like, traditional timelines.
It's like that whole idea that, like, everyone learns at the same pace.
Exactly.
And it's just not true.
Not at all.
They even talk about all these women throughout history.
Oh, interesting.
Who were, like, killing it.
Right.
Like, they were learning languages and they were doing all this stuff. And it's like...
And they did it without the benefit of, like, structured education systems like we have today.
They figured it out.
They did.
They were like, we're going to learn this stuff.
Exactly. And they excelled.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what we're missing out on by not, like, really tapping into people's individual potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you think, like, are we really setting people up for success, or are we kind of...
Right. Are you holding them back?
Yeah, like, what if we're doing it all wrong?
Exactly. And you know what? The author actually proposes a pretty radical solution.
What's that?
They're talking about, like, a complete overhaul of this system.
Whoa.
Yeah. They're saying we need to reevaluate everything. Like, from the ground up.
Wow.
Like, what are we even trying to achieve with education?
Okay.
And how can we actually make it work?
So, like, starting over.
Yeah, kind of like a reset button.
Wow.
They're even suggesting, like, this whole commission.
A commission.
Yeah, like a group of experts, you know, educators.
Okay.
Parents, even.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to come together and really rethink the whole thing.
So it's not just about adding more books to the curriculum.
No, it's about looking at the bigger picture.
Gotcha.
Like, what kind of humans are we trying to cultivate, and are we doing it right?
Yeah. It's like that balance we were talking about before.
Exactly.
Like, how do we have those high standards, but also make it so people are actually excited to learn?
Like, they want to keep going even after the grades are in.
Right.
Even after they graduate.
Almost like we want them to fall in love with learning.
Exactly. That's the dream, isn't it?
Totally.
To have that passion for knowledge.
And to see these books, not as like something you have to read.
Yeah.
But as like
friends.
Yeah.
Like companions.
Companions that you keep coming back to.
Exactly. Throughout your life.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's like this whole idea of carrying these texts with you, not as a burden, but as like a source of
wisdom,
guidance, inspiration.
It's like having a conversation with the greatest minds in history.
Exactly. Yeah. And realizing that their words still speak to us across the centuries.
That's pretty cool when you think about it like that.
It is. It's humbling.
Yeah.
And inspiring.
It kind of makes you want to go pick up a book.
Right.
Yeah.
It does.
What are you reading these days? I'm curious.
Ooh, good question. Well, we can save that for another deep dive.
Yes, definitely.
This has been fascinating, though.
Yes, I agree. Lots to think about.
As always.
For sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep those pages turning.